This podcast is sponsored by Hair Club.
Do you think you're playing football? Do you think you're playing football? Do you think you're playing football? You are showing me nothing.
Fires, Mike Sims, Walker, knocked down.
Oh my God! Davis is going running all the way back. Auburn's going to win the football game.
In trouble, he's going to be sacked. No, gets away. He runs, gets away again, goes to the 40, gets away again.
Jackson takes it himself. Look at him dart back and forth. Oh! He broke his ankles.
I have never seen this before in my life.
Still looking. Firing. Near corner. It's caught!
Denver! Unbelievable!
And welcome to the Fourth Down Fiasco.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Fourth Down Fiasco, your go-to podcast for all things football. I am the pink shirt pretty boy, Jordan Pryor, and with me is the shaven savant, Tanner Vinsky. Say hello to the people, Tanner.
Hello, hello.
You and your shaven baby face, man, throwing me off. But I like it.
I actually look my age, right? I don't look like a 30-year-old man.
I would say you had a certain wisdom to you, looks wise, that you had with the long beard. So
yeah,
there's nothing wrong with having it, nice and full. But as always, we ask that y'all rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You can also follow us on social media. We are at @4thdown_pod on Twitter and at Fourth Down Fiasco on TikTok and Instagram. And today we have some UFL stuff to recap. So we're just going to go game by game since there's only 4 games that happened. And we'll start off with the Arlington Renegades and the St. Louis Battlehawks. That was a 27-24 Battlehawks victory. And any first thoughts for you, Tanner?
Well, the big thing, is just the fact that there was 40,000 people at the stadium. So
40,317. This is why they should have never taken the Rams out of St. Louis, because they are so thirsty for a football franchise right now. Incredible. I think that breaks the record for most in attendance for a USFL or XFL game. So really any semi-pro football game, it breaks the record for.
Which is a great sign. If they're going to have that type of attendance, they just need to find other cities that are starved for that type of, professional sport like football. And they're going to do well. They're going to get the money they need, and it could actually start forming into what they want it to be. Especially with the challenges they've been facing over the last couple of years between the XFL and the USFL, just trying to find their footing, being a semi-pro, organization, not having the talent that you would really see in, obviously in the NFL, but even to an extent, like the talent you would see in college with some of the bigger divisional teams, it might be a little crazy to say, but I think a lot of SEC schools probably beat these teams. A lot of Big Ten schools probably beat these teams. I'm sure they would blow out like MAC teams, right?
Yeah.
But that's not really saying a whole lot. So, no. If they can get 40,000 people in the seats, again, we saw a little bit back with the XFL. There was that one player who decided to forego going to college and went straight into the XFL. It could realistically become a pathway.
Yeah, that would be nice to see, and then you would you'd be able to get these kids to sign 2- and 3-year deals, which then would in turn help your league out more. And no, I'm with you in agreement that they should look for places that are so starved for a football team. I would honestly be very curious as to how well a San Diego team would do, because I'm going to be honest, out of the teams that they currently have, really the only two that it's like, why would you put a team there, is Houston and Dallas. Well, Arlington rather, because it's like, well, they both have pro teams. So, I would be curious what would happen if you put the Renegades in San Diego, or, maybe gave Salt Lake City a team, or Albuquerque. Bro, Albuquerque would fuck up.
Albuquerque would be sweet. Yeah.
Would fuck up a UFL team. But it is encouraging to see. I did see that they showed the unique viewership or whatever. And so each game, all 4 games had over 700,000 unique households viewing the game. So well over a couple million people per each game. So that's encouraging to see. And that's
huge.
those numbers are up from last year. But getting into the game itself, AJ McCarron, which that name should sound familiar to some of our listeners, former NFL player AJ McCarron, did his damn thing against the Renegades. Went 19 of 29 for 248 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Looked real good.
Yeah. I mean, and it looks like they have a really solid receiver core here with the Battlehawks. I mean, this Marcel Aitman had 114 yards off of 4 receptions, 2 touchdowns. Yeah, 9 receptions for 82 yards from Shepard. I mean, they might actually have like a pretty good, offense cooking for the rest of the season, which, makes it good. I mean, it's exciting football, right? Like if you can take the top off of teams, it's going to be great. And even they had a good rushing day too. 14 attempts, 104 yards, a touchdown from Durant.
Yeah, I was going to say Mateo Durant from South Carolina really did his thing as well. Yeah. I do love that this is really a good way for guys who maybe got overlooked or guys who went to smaller colleges to really get their opportunity to shine. I wouldn't be surprised if AJ McCarron plays like he did on what was that, Saturday or Sunday, excuse me. I wouldn't be surprised if someone picks him up, Yeah, you can never have enough good backup quarterbacks in the NFL, and so that was a guy who you really thought that he was going to do something in the NFL. At least some people did, and for him to kind of fall from grace and end up in the UFL, maybe this is his redemption arc. But
and that's a good point with someone like Darius Shepard. I mean, he was drafted by the Packers, I think.
Sounds right.
Yeah, I mean, he was a practice squad player for most of his career. I think he only really had 1 or 2 years starting. But, I mean, you put up a stat line like that, I mean, there's some pretty bad receiver cores in the NFL right now. Someone might want to take a flyer on that, or especially with Marcel Aitman. I mean, 112 yards, 2 touchdowns being pretty much the vocal point of the offense that game. I mean, he probably is better than the Patriots 3 or 4, probably puts the run on the money for there. So
Yeah, and something to note about this game. So Arlington Renegades fall to 0-2, and if anybody has kept up with any of these teams in the past, Arlington Renegades, formerly the Dallas Renegades, were the XFL champions last year. Granted, they did make the playoffs with a losing record, which is kind of why people were saying that the XFL was a joke, because you had a team with a losing record win the whole thing. But it really came down to, dude, the rushing attack for the Renegades sucked. I mean, we're talking 3.4 yards per attempt. And, you know, they have multiple different running backs that they trotted out, and nobody was really able to get anything going. But they had some good wide receiver performances from Peyton, from Bonds. Quarterback did just fine. Perez, 233 yards, a touchdown, no interceptions, 72% completion percentage. But the Battlehawks offense just looked way more balanced, and the Renegades defense just looked lost out there, honestly. So
it is funny to still see Luis Perez still chipping away at these minor league teams. I mean, he was in the first iteration, or not the first iteration, the XFL, because that was the early thousands. But when the XFL returned right before COVID started, I mean, I think he might have been the Battlehawks quarterback back then.
He's been on like 3 or 4 of these semi-pro teams in the past 3 to 4 years. Like, he's on a new team every year, basically.
And every time you watch him, he was even in the AAF, that one that like completely botched before they did the XFL. That's how I remember where he was at. But I mean, like, he still is putting up pretty decent stat lines in these leagues. I mean, I'm surprised that. I mean, I'm not too shocked that he's never gotten a call up to the majors, just because you look at like the way he plays. I mean, he's kind of a check down merchant. Can't really throw it too far. He doesn't really have a whole lot of great traits. I mean, he's just kind of relatively accurate and can make middle of the field reads. And when you're playing bad defenses, I mean, you're going to be able to carve him up that way. But it is just funny seeing that, he's still kicking around. He's still starting for a lot of these rosters, and I bet he probably will start again next year, even if the Renegades decide to move on from him.
Yeah, I mean, he was one of the bright spots for the Renegades these past 2 games. So I hope that they hold on to him. They want any chance of really winning. It's just, man, their defense is atrocious, though. To be quite honest. Which we saw in this game. So we also have how do you call them the Brahmas? Is that how
that'd be Brahmas, right?
Yeah, I think so. Dude, every time I see their team name, I don't know. I
destroys your brain a little.
Yeah, I want to say Bahamas. I want to say the San Antonio Bahamas, but I know that that's not right. But yeah, the Brahmas faced the Memphis Showboats. That was a really good battle. Brahmas took it 20-19. I mean, down to the wire.
It was a comeback. I mean, they scored 20 points in the fourth quarter. They got all of their points in the fourth, and it's like
all of them. Oh shoot, you're right. I thought that they scored. I thought they started making their comeback in the third.
No. They literally scored all of their points in the fourth.
Oh man, that's fun.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a win and a half, right? I mean, you sit there, you're getting utterly dominated the entire game, and you come back, and I mean, there's also a couple of names here that are pretty familiar. I mean, we got Cody Latimer. He had a good game, 8 receptions, 91 yards, a touchdown. Stevenson here. Yeah, Marquez Stevenson, 6 receptions, 100 yards, a touchdown. Good old Steelers backup running back out of Maryland, Anthony McFarland.
I was just about to say, I recognize McFarland.
Yeah, he did terrible, it looks like.
I was about to say, he did about as well as he did on the Steelers. Yeah.
Which is funny because I like looking back at – it's always fun looking back at drafts, and you kind of see some of those late-round picks that get, like, super hyped up. Like they're just getting, like, glazed to hell by their fan bases, and you're like – Why was anyone sold on Anthony McFarland? Like he was an all right running back at Maryland, and we drafted him in like the 5th round, and everyone's like, "Oh shit, this guy's going to be nuts as a number 2." And you see that with every franchise. There's going to be like some late round pick that everyone's like, "Oh shit, this guy was supposed to go in the 3rd and he went in the 5th. That means he's going to be like a rotational starter for the rest of his career." And it's like, I mean, probably not.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so hard to really predict things. But speaking of names that kind of just jar me a little bit, I didn't realize that Case Kukos was their quarterback.
For the Showboats, yeah.
Yeah, good old Broncos legend, right? He played for the Broncos, didn't he?
I believe so. I mean, I think he might have played for the Vikings. I mean, he played for the Vikings for a little bit, I think, too. Mm-hmm. I mean, he was always one of those ones that when he came out, you knew it was not going to be good. He's kind of like how Jaron Hall was last year, Mm-hmm. Wherever he played, it was like, oh, man, if Case Kukos is walking out, it's probably not great.
Yeah, it's one of those things that he got into the league solely on his size. I mean, he's like 6'5". I mean, he's a massive human being. And, especially playing in these semi-pro games, I mean, he just kind of dwarfs a lot of these, the talent's obviously lesser in this league, but also some of it's just because guys are smaller, they're just not as big, not as beefy, not as tall, whatever it is. And so, I mean, yeah, Case just kind of towers over people. But yeah, very inaccurate, dude. I mean, I'm looking actually 55% completion.
Not great
percentage. No, not particularly. And I mean, we're talking about semi-pro defenses here. I'm curious what his seasonal stats are. So in 2 games, he has passed for less than 400 yards, 2 touchdowns and a pick. So not particularly great.
I'm actually looking at his career. I don't know why. Like we have a good understanding of Case Kukos because he actually never played an NFL game.
Really? I haven't. Are you sure he wasn't on the Broncos?
No, he was never on the. Oh, he was on the Broncos. He was on the Broncos.
Was he a practice squad guy?
For 3 days.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah. No, I mean he was undrafted with the Giants, and then he got waived on the Giants, and then he was a practice squad player for the Broncos, Vikings, Raiders, and
Okay.
was waived from all of them. So
I definitely see him now I was like, I do remember him being in a Broncos uniform. Okay, yeah, practice squad.
Well, it's funny because both of us called out two separate teams. We both have vivid memories of them on two teams we don't root for.
Yeah.
But he was just a practice squad player. Like, I don't know.
But we were right. That's all that matters.
Yeah, we're too deep in our bags. Like, we gotta
calm down.
Yeah, we gotta calm down if we got that much Case Cookus knowledge, right?
That was not on my bingo card of things to talk about today. Case Cookus. Oh, okay. We're derailing. Let's talk Stallions and Panthers, shall we? What is it? Michigan Panthers and then
Birmingham.
Birmingham, that's right. Yeah. Honestly, I think Birmingham's a cool city to have a football team for, because whenever I was in Birmingham a couple of months ago, I mean, they're so obsessed about Alabama just in general, but they're definitely a football city to their core.
Oh yeah.
And so
it's hard in the South, man. They just love college so much that it's hard for any sort of other professional football team to get any sort of traction. So I mean, we'll see. I mean, it's the same thing in like the Carolinas. It's like, why is there not a ton of Panthers fans? It's like, well, because everybody's rooting for Clemson or South Carolina or UNC, NC State. Shout out NC State for having their men's and women's both be Final Four in college basketball, though. Kind of crazy.
That's sick.
Yeah.
But I was just looking it up because, again, we're talking about Birmingham being a really good football city. And actually, their week 1 game, they had almost 15,000 people in attendance. So, I mean, again, it's not the same as St. Louis by any stretch of the imagination.
But 15,000 is still extremely respectable, especially for a minor league team.
Yeah, exactly. So, I would be curious as to how that continues moving forward. If they're able to kind of continue to see that kind of success. This was an away game for them this past week, so we didn't get to see those numbers. But I am curious. I believe next week it should be a home game for them. So
we'll see how they perform back at home.
Yeah. So I'm gonna be honest. I didn't watch this game in particular. but I will look at some stats.
I mean, it does look like a relatively interesting game. I mean, it was 17-10 going out of half, and then they just both tacked on field goals for the second half, and that was all they wrote.
Yeah.
Matt Corral made an appearance, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So speaking of North Carolina quarterbacks, so.
Yeah, Matt Corral on the season in 2 games has thrown for 254 yards and 2 interceptions and a touchdown.
I'm an idiot. Matt Corral went to Ole Miss. Why did I think he went to – I'm thinking of Sam Howell. There we go. I'm getting my random backups confused.
But yeah, it definitely appears to be a defensive battle. I mean, there were multiple players by the Stallions who had multiple sacks. Looking at – is that Taco Charlton?
Oh, dude, Taco Charlton?
Dude, yeah, Taco Charlton with 3 sacks on the game. Dallas Cowboys legend, baby. Taco Charlton had 3. Carlos Davis, that name sounds familiar too. Had 2 sacks. Where do I know Carlos Davis from? It's fun to look at some of these names. Oh, he was a Steeler boy.
So I'll say he sounded familiar.
Yeah, no, he played for you for 4 or 5, not 4 or 5, 2 to 3 seasons, it looks like. So that's fun. Late round draft pick though, 2020. Not much to say there. I'm still thrown back. As soon as I saw T. Charlton, I was like, hold on.
You're like, no shit.
I was like, that name still haunts me. And then if you look on the Panther side, it's kind of the same deal. They at least had a little bit of better quarterback play with Perry.
Yeah.
But overall, nothing really to write home about on this game. I'm trying to see how their defense did. They didn't have the same sack totals. Oh, they didn't have a single sack. Yeah, that's why you lost the game.
Couldn't get any pressure.
Yeah. So then that leads us to the last game on the docket: Defenders versus Roughnecks, DC versus Houston. Y'all know I'm a grade A Houston hater on this pod. Just the city, not the Texans. I do like me some Stroud, but fuck the city of Houston all day, every day. I just gotta call it how I see it. I'll send that clip over to my boy Matt and just let him know.
Most of my memories of DC are from my ex, so fuck DC too, right? So.
You know what? Hey, that's why you don't like the Capitals. Got it.
Well, no, I mean,
I know
like the
because there's an actual rivalry there. No, I'm well aware. I was just trying to be a dick.
Yeah, I think she actually rooted for Detroit for some reason. So.
That's weird.
Yeah, I rooted for the Red Wings. I have no clue. But regardless, that's neither here nor there. Another comeback win. So DC put up 11 points in the fourth. So.
Looking at quarterback play, average quarterback play from Senate. On the Roughnecks, Defenders.
Jordan Tuamu is still playing around again, like Luis Perez. He's been kicking around in these minor league teams for a while.
I was about to say he's kind of up there in age, isn't he? Isn't he in his 30s?
No, he was born in 97.
Really? Oh, well, I'm about to be in my late 20s, so there you go.
It's about our age.
So I really just aged myself just then. Excellent. Yeah. Because I was like, dude, he's been around for forever. And I'm like, cool, I've been around for forever. Lovely.
I was like, oh, this guy's the same age as me, huh?
Wow.
I mean, that means he's ancient, so.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, side note, my kiddos in my youth group, and I'm over here dropping F-bombs and stuff, but luckily they don't listen to my podcast. But yeah, my youth group kids, they call me old all the time, bro. It's really funny because I'm technically Gen Z. I'm the first year of it. I don't feel like a Gen Zer. I feel like a millennial to my core, but technically, I'm the same generation as them. And I always remind them, they're like, well, it doesn't matter. You're still almost 30. And I'm like, I'm 26. Calm down. Calm down, little Kyle.
No, I get the almost 30, and I'm like, I'm 25. All right, like let's simmer down on the almost 30 shit.
Simmer down.
Like,
well, yours is probably the beard.
Yeah, the beard doesn't help.
No. But yeah, nothing super exciting from any of these games. I mean, the kicking from the Roughnecks was pretty solid. What is that? Molson had a nice 51-yarder. McCrane, 43 was his longest.
Shout out McCrane. He used to be on the Steelers.
Hey, fair enough. Try to see what else.
I also saw Kiki Kuti is playing for the Defenders, so that's pretty cool.
Oh, that is cool. I totally missed this whenever we were talking Stallions and Panthers, but Bates had another just bomb. This one from 62. He's going to get signed by an NFL team before the season starts. I think that kickers are probably the easiest thing to pick up from
to poach from these teams.
Yeah, because it's you don't have to make room on a roster really. Like you always leave one spot for them. They're not super expensive, especially whenever they're coming from these teams. I'm trying to see if anybody else hit any 60+ yard bombs. No, but Wadman for the Stallions did 53. Who else? Now I'm just looking at kickers now. Nothing from the Showboats that impresses me.
It's been the most exciting part about it. It's been this Bates guy just drilling 60+.
Oh yeah, I mean the dude's got a leg, and it's crazy that he didn't kick back. In college, like he only kicked in high school, but he's a soccer guy, and so it's like okay, that's where that leg power comes from.
Are the Vikings still struggling with kickers? Maybe they need to bring this guy on.
I don't know, but I do believe that Detroit is in need of a kicker right now. So might be a good spot.
I mean, yeah, if they ever stall out. I mean, they don't typically stall out, but if they did, I mean, it's pretty huge for them.
Yeah. So, well, cool. Any last thoughts before we kick it to FANBASE Fiasco?
No, I mean, it's another week of minor league football. It's not the most exciting, but it's always good to have football in spring, which is great. Mm-hmm. From what we're seeing, early trends, I mean, they just need to throw these teams in more bizarre places. I mean, I know they want to kind of attract the big markets and, kind of get the revenue from there, but it's hard to get Dallas fans to care about a minor league team when they got the Cowboys to root for. It's hard to get Houston to care. But you can get St. Louis to care. You can get Birmingham to care. I bet you could get Albuquerque, Omaha, Salt Lake. Dude,
Omaha would
go crazy.
Honestly, that's a great idea, Tanner. You should be in charge of the UFL.
That's what I'm saying, man. I would have Virginia Beach and shit going. We would have a bunch of weird ass teams and weird ass places, but
hell yeah,
they don't want to do it.
No. Well, I mean, it's kind of like I remember whenever they were talking about expanding the WNBA, I kept saying the first place that they need to put the next WNBA team in is Iowa. There is.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Because they are so willing to go hard for a college basketball team. Bro, you give Iowa a team, and honestly, you figure out a way to let them draft Caitlin Clark, and I guarantee packed out every game.
Oh, yeah. It would be amazing.
Yeah. And so I'm with you. Yeah. They need to put them in more of these smaller marketplaces.
Even think about how popular Iowa football is. And Iowa is one of the worst football teams to watch because they score 6 points a game and still win. So, you throw a minor league team in Des Moines, they probably would do pretty well.
Yeah, honestly.
Sucks for players. You got to travel to Des Moines. But I stayed in a hotel there one time, and I didn't get killed, so could be worse.
That's good. Yeah. That's one of the few states I have not gone to yet is Iowa. I don't really have a ton of interest in that one, but
when I drove from Pittsburgh to Salt Lake, I went right through it, and I was about 12 hours in the drive, so I pulled in there for a night.
Fair enough. If my goal is to hit all 50 states, so I'm sure I eventually will. You know who needs a team, bro? Anchorage, Alaska needs a team, bro. Bro, they would take that shit so seriously because they have nothing.
Oh, absolutely. What else are they going to be doing? You just got to worry about the travel logistics. That shit would be miserable.
Well, yeah, and you would have to have a dome stadium.
Well, if it's a spring league, you want it.
Have you been to Alaska in the month of March and April?
It's okay in April, right? And it's March is a little bit of a harder spell.
Towards the end of April. But yeah, you have training camp starting in February. You gotta have a roof.
Probably not good.
Gotta have a roof. So, well, cool. This has been segment 1. We're going to go ahead and kick it over to FANBASE Fiasco. We have an awesome interview with a Chiefs fan. I know I just heard everybody groan in unison when I said Chiefs, but it was a really good interview. So we're going to check that out right after a word from our sponsors.
Picture this. You're the proud owner of a business and you've got it all. The hustle, the bustle, and the occasional office kitchen mishap that turns into an alarm triggering emergency.
Whoa!
But fear not. Western States Fire Protection is here to turn your workplace into a disaster-free zone. Our in-house team handles everything from fire sprinklers to alarms and monitoring, inspections, extinguishers, and more.
Whew. Crisis averted. Thanks, Western States Fire Protection.
No problem. We've been protecting lives and property since 1985, and we take our job seriously, even when your employees don't.
Oh no, not again.
Visit WSFP.com to request a quote. Because when your microwave thinks it's a flamethrower, we're the heroes you need.
Are you looking for a podcast to advertise your business? Well, you're in luck. Here at the Fourth Down Fiasco, we're looking for show sponsors. Whether you want to be a platinum sponsor and be mentioned at the beginning and end of every episode, or you just want a simple 30 or 60-second ad, we got you covered. If you're interested in having a spot on our show, you can reach us at fourthdownfiasco@gmail.com. That's fourthdownfiasco@gmail.com. We are excited to hear from you and even more excited to have you on the show. Join the Fiasco family now.
Yeah. Hey.
They tell the truth, how you settle in. Your team's veterans, so how you cope where you sit this season. Better spin, better rhetoric, but tell us better teams have been. I ask the question of you now to see the thoughts you spin. FANBASE Fiasco, don't think that I'm irrational. My team better than your team, and that's just facts, bro. We've been examples. Don't think this year don't mean much. This legacy you talking about, let me tell you about my team, son.
All right, and welcome to another edition of the FANBASE Fiasco. If you enjoyed that song, that is from friend of the pod, Cam Hayden. You can download his music on Apple Music and on Spotify. You can also buy his book, Working on the Process, on Amazon. With us today, we've got, I know many of you are probably going to roll your eyes. We have a Chiefs fan with us today. Yeah, just some true villain shit right here. I got my boy Tony with me. Tony is the only other black guy that lives in Northern Colorado. So, very excited to have him on the pod today. He's laughing because he knows it's true. Say hello to the people for me, Tony.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Slick Tony, if you please.
Okay, Slick Tony. Okay. Cool. And so Tony and I are friends. We actually met randomly at, was it Brothers Bar a couple of years ago?
It sure was.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that was the year that guy wanted me to go hit a lick with him. That was a fun time.
Yeah. You had other priorities.
Yeah. I'm glad I got out of there as quick as I could. But Tony, is there, but before we dive into the questions, anything you want to tell the people about yourself? So, a little introduction of any sort?
Sure, yeah. So Tony, I grew up in Kansas City, moved to Colorado about 7 years ago. And, I've been living in Broncos country, so it's been a little hostile, but we keep calm and carry on.
So what did you move to Colorado for then?
Yeah, so I graduated with a history degree in Kansas State, and then I am here working at a museum now.
Okay. So, that's right. I forgot you did work at the museum. That's dope. Mm-hmm. Well, cool. Let's dive into some of the harder hitting questions.
Sure thing.
Do Chiefs fans enjoy being the villains of the NFL?
It's funny because you go years hating all the Patriots fans, and you realize that you hate them for their success. And so when the coin flips and you're like, oh wait, we're the ones winning and everyone's trying to dunk on us, there's a bit of it that you kind of enjoy it a little bit, like Fair enough. Finally the one hater for this.
You know what? I'm not even mad. I would probably be the same. I would feed into it. I actually saw the other day that they're thinking about potentially moving the Chiefs because they can't get taxpayers to pay for the renovations to Arrowhead. And the Dallas mayor came out and said, he was like, hey, look, we got room for y'all in the Metroplex. And dude, I will trade in my blue and silver for red and yellow. Only in that case. Okay. As long as they're a Dallas team, I don't feel dirty about switching sides, and then I will really feed into that shit. So
Sure thing.
So
yeah.
Cool. What were you gonna say? Sorry.
I was gonna say, yeah, the good part about that is, they might get kicked out. They might be moving out of Kansas City, Missouri, but they're still in Kansas City, Kansas. So, who knows?
Yeah, you'll be fine. So I know that you had mentioned that you are from Kansas City, so I presume that that's how you became a fan of your team. Yes.
Yeah, kind of. I didn't really care about football too much when I was younger, like middle school, high school. I played Madden 06, but I wasn't really like.
Did you play with Michael Vick? Did you play with Vick on that 06 team?
I had to.
Yeah, there it is.
Everybody else. But then I got to college and I was hanging out with these guys who always went to watch football on Sunday, and I kind of like, okay, the Chiefs are pretty good. Like, let me wrap my set real quick, and I've been locked in ever since.
That's cool. I mean, great time for you to lock in, honestly.
Yeah, the tail end of the Alex Smith era.
Hey, that way you can say that you're not an actual bandwagon. You can say that you were there for the Alex Smith era, and move forward. And now you're in the Mahomes era, which it's got to be a great era to be in.
Oh my God, you have no idea.
No, I really don't. Well, so then, since you weren't huge into watching football as a kid, I mean, was there a favorite player for you to watch during your lifetime, aside from Mahomes?
Oh, yeah. Priest Holmes, loved watching that. I liked running back. So Priest Holmes, Jamal Charles, like those dudes.
Dude, I used to love Jamal Charles.
Dude was a beast.
He ran with bad intentions. That is I mean, you would see people making business decisions when he'd run up that gap and it would just be one-on-one and you're thinking to yourself, I'm going for the knees and for the ankles. I'm not going for anything higher than that.
No, sir. No, sir.
So kind of going into the actual, I guess, overall outlook of the season, I had presumed that your favorite moment of the season was the Super Bowl win, right? Was there a different moment maybe besides the Super Bowl that you were like, this was the peak of our season, aside from, winning it all?
So, Super Bowl, cherry on top. But I think for me, the fact that during the playoffs, we start off with the Dolphins, we go to the Bills, we go to the Ravens, and then San Francisco. Every single one of those games, you got people yapping in your ear. Oh, Ravens are going to dunk on you guys. The Bills are going to crush you. The Dolphins, well, maybe not the Dolphins.
Yeah, I don't think anybody was worried about y'all with the Dolphins.
No. But just overcoming all that every single week and getting to look over to the guy who was talking trash all game and just like, That's all I needed.
All you needed. Okay, so the playoff run was probably the high. What was, I mean, it's not like y'all had a ton of these, but what was the low point of the season for you? Maybe a time where you were like, oh man, this may not be our year.
So, we start off real slow, lost first game to the Lions, not ideal. And then just penalties and drop passes. Week 14 though, against the Bills, we were down 3. It was like 20-17. Mahomes throws his pass, goes to Kelsey, and Kelsey laterals it to Kadarius Toney, and it would have been like the perfect touchdown. It would have been amazing, and then offensive offsides, and it just took all the wind out of our sails. Just like, all right, so we just lost to the 6-6 Bills. We're already not doing great. Like, yeah, it was a low point. I went home with my head held pretty low that day.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I do remember it was one of those, it was like a really ticky-tack penalty, honestly, because it really had nothing to do with the play. And I remember they were like, well, it is a penalty. And I'm like, yeah, but if someone called that on my team, bro, I'd be pissed. Like, if the Cowboys would have done that and scored off of it, and then they would have called it back, I'd have been like, really? The penalty that you called is on the opposite side of the field and had nothing to do with the play. And so that was pretty brutal. I did watch that game live because I am on this podcast, we are grade A Josh Allen haters. And so
okay.
Any chance I get to dunk on him, I take it,
Absolutely. And, they ended up taking that game, but we took them in the playoffs, so that's where it counts.
Exactly. You won the game that actually mattered. So this was supposed to be a down year for y'all, and yet you guys still found a way to have success and win it all. Did you ever doubt that you guys, didn't have the opportunity to win it all? I know you said that your head was held low in that moment, but was there still something in the back of your head that was saying, like, we can still win it?
Yeah. I'll be totally truthful. Sorry, Chiefs Kingdom, but like 2 months in, when I was seeing all our drops and we just could not find a rhythm, I was like, I think we're going to get bounced out the divisional round and then probably use it to finish rebuilding and then win the Super Bowl next season. Happy I was wrong.
I'm sure.
Happy I was wrong, but it was not a good look for the team. We were scraping by these victories and on the ones that we did win, and then we were losing games that we shouldn't lose. Like, we were on like a 17 win streak against the Broncos and we lost there.
I mean, once you pass, double digits of a win streak against a team, it's really hard to keep that up. So, I mean, I would say that's more of just regressing back to the mean a little bit more than anything else. That's just the football gods saying, like, hey, y'all have been bullies for too long. We got to give the little guy a win somewhere.
Yeah.
So, okay, trap question for you. Who is more important to the Chiefs dynasty, Chris Jones or Travis Kelce?
I'm gonna go. All right. I'm gonna go ahead and say Chris Jones. And I say that because as long as we have 15, Patrick Mahomes, I don't really care who we have on the offensive side of the ball. As long as someone has Patrick Mahomes throwing it to them, I have faith in us. Chris Jones, we need his leadership, his presence, because he's a game wrecker, as shown in the playoffs, you know?
Fair enough. No, I mean, and plus this past season, y'all's defense is the reason why y'all got where y'all were. You know, even as much as we love Pat Mahomes on this pod, that defense is really, I mean, if that defense doesn't hold San Fran to the amount of points that they did, then it doesn't matter what Pat Mahomes does, because there's only so much talent on that offense, unfortunately. Also, one of my co-hosts just popped in. Let me pop him in real quick. Danny, I didn't know that you were joining us today. Sorry about that. I would have waited before we started all this.
You're okay. It was a last-minute audible.
Well, yeah, I didn't. I mean, I sent out a text yesterday to you and Tanner, and I don't think that either one of y'all said that y'all were going to be on. So I was like, okay, it's fine. But
for some reason,
Danny,
I thought it was
this
at noon.
is Tony. It is.
How's it going, Danny?
Yeah.
Well, nice to meet you, Tony.
Pleasure.
So, Danny, if you have the questions pulled up, I just asked him who was more important to the dynasty, Chris Jones or Travis Kelce. So I can, if you have the questions pulled up, I can let you ask that next one.
Hey, you can ask that next one real quick. I'll pull them up.
Oh, you just don't want to ask the next question. Okay.
But
so,
who is the most important part of the dynasty? Is it Chris Jones or Travis Kelce?
He said it was Chris Jones.
Yeah, I said it was Chris Jones.
Okay. Nice. That's fair. I like that answer.
So here's a fun one that I know why Danny doesn't want to ask this question. What are your opinions on Taylor Swift's music? Folklore is personally a favorite album of Tanner's. So he's the one who wrote that question. So I'm not going to say that Folklore is my favorite album because
you know, I'll be honest. I don't really go out of my way to listen to any Taylor Swift.
I get
if
you.
Blank Space comes on, you know, I'll it's a bop. I'll bounce to it, you know. But I can't say that I've gone too far out of my way for T Swift.
And do you ever get?
I feel like a lot of us can say that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, hey, look, she has really funny commercials. The one that she did with Drake where they both were like singing each other's songs in the gym. That was funny.
Yeah.
You know,
she's a funny person. Like,
yeah, she seems like she has a good sense of humor, you know. Just not my style of music.
Sure.
Do you ever get annoyed with Travis Kelce's antics, you know, between the pod, you know, just constantly being in the spotlight and sometimes just being like, oh, God, dude, you know, do you ever get annoyed with it or do you feed into it?
I wouldn't say I get annoyed by it. You know, the dude's successful. He's trying to make his I think he's trying to set up for his career post NFL. And I think that this is a good, you know, doing the podcast and just being in the public eye is a good way to do that. People for a while were saying that their whole relationship was just a publicity stunt. I don't really necessarily believe that.
Oh no! After the divisional game, the way she was looking up at him, I'm sorry, that there was love in those eyes. That's I think that it's legit.
Yeah, his antics, you know, dude's making his money, winning games. I'd probably be a little obnoxious too, to be honest.
Oh yeah. You know, the way I see it is, you know, I'm never against players having fun and doing the podcast thing as long as they're winning and they're putting their money where their mouth is. It just really bothers me when players like Micah Parsons hop up on a podcast all the time and then they disappear in the playoffs, you know. So
well, that's most of the Cowboys, but that's a whole different story.
Yes, yeah, we don't need to go down that road.
Not like this.
Yeah, I'm ready for y'all to become the Fort Worth Chiefs so I can need that.
We'll talk about that in a little bit. All right, let's hop off the Taylor Swift train. And how would you grade the Chiefs' season on a scale, like a grading scale, A to F? You guys won the Super Bowl.
Pretty clear.
Had a rough little bit in the regular season.
Sure, yeah. If we're talking regular season, I'm gonna give us a solid C-. You know, we did enough to get through. You know, we graduated into the playoffs.
Yeah.
But it's something about playoffs that we flip a switch, and it seems like all the issues that we make for 17 weeks just evaporate, and we just start playing clutch. So I think Nick Wright was the one who said the Chiefs' regular season was like an extended practice, and then the playoffs is where we consider the real game. So it kind of had that vibe to it.
I mean, technically, yeah. Like, as long as you make the playoffs, you can make a run to the Super Bowl. And look at the Giants with Eli Manning. They were the wild card teams, and they won the Super Bowl twice. And yeah,
I'm just thinking to myself, man, it must be a luxury to go 11-6, make the playoffs, and say, it was a C- regular season.
We just have a bar set so high, as far as execution goes. Right. And we're swapping out receivers in and out for the first, however long in the season, trying to figure out who's working and who's not. As a fan, you get a little impatient, I guess.
Oh,
to get
for sure,
I can see that. But yeah, 11-6. Yeah, that's probably.
I'm just saying, for me, I'm like, 11-6, Super Bowl win, C-. Must be nice to be able to say that. Oh man.
Yeah.
Well, so okay,
it helps being in the AFC West as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the standings now.
A little bit of wiggle room.
Yeah, the AFC East had 2 11-6 teams. The AFC North had a 13-4, 11-6. The South, you would have won the division as well. But yeah, having the Raiders, Denver, and LA in your division is a little nice.
We take those.
It's fair.
Yeah, I would too.
So you had mentioned kind of how y'all flip that switch whenever y'all go into the postseason, and I am a big Andy Reid truther. Would you say that Andy Reid is the GOAT?
I would say Andy Reid would be the GOAT if he had won in Philadelphia. If he had got a Lombardi in Philadelphia, I think you could put him in that conversation. He was getting them to the playoffs. He was winning championship games, like NFC championship games, but he never came home with the ring until he got to the Chiefs. So he's my GOAT.
And that's all that matters, right?
That's all that matters.
No, yeah. I mean, I've always loved him as a coach. I think that he's one of the few old school coaches left that still really get it. We talk about it all on this pod all the time of how there's kind of this surgence right now of, you're seeing a lot of former players turn to coaches that are, they're guys in their late 30s, early 40s that, are able to connect with the players better, and why we didn't see Bill Belichick get hired by anybody, and why things aren't working with Sean Payton. And it's because, a lot of these old school coaches and old school philosophies just aren't working for these guys anymore. And I think that Andy Reid is one of the few that, and I don't know why, I couldn't really tell you up close, but he seems to be the one old school guy left that still really gets it. So,
yeah.
Do you think that there's any type of timetable for his retirement? I mean, I'm sure you're hoping he doesn't retire anytime soon, but he's getting up there in age.
Yeah, and so I feel like the retirement questions are only because of his age, but dude's still winning, and he's doing it pretty decisively. And so I would say, as long as the Chiefs are winning, I think Andy Reid's going to be around for a while, 5-10 years. I think he'll be around.
Honestly, if I'm him, I just retire with Pat.
When Mahomes leaves?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Whenever Pat retires, that's when I retire. That's what I would do if I were him.
Yeah, if we got to roll Andy Reid out in a wheelchair for, season 15, like I'll do it myself if we have to.
Hey, I mean, nowadays you can just coach from a booth. It'll be fine,
Yeah.
Have him coach from a booth, give him an assistant who can just yell at people when they need to yell at people, or have a test dummy for Travis Kelce to be able to scream at too. It'll be fine.
Oh no!
Yeah, he wouldn't have to get shoved by Travis Kelce.
Oh man, that was a top tier Super Bowl moment, because everyone on Twitter was like, "Oh my gosh, that was unacceptable." Blah blah blah. And I was like, they still won.
Yeah, and the memes immediately. It was mere seconds before the memes started pouring out. So, oh boy.
But while we talk about Mahomes a bit, I don't know your opinion yet on the GOAT debate, but if you don't think he is already the GOAT, what do you think he needs to do to overtake Tom Brady as the greatest quarterback of all time?
Sure. I feel like everybody has a different sliding scale for where they put the GOAT. But for me, 5 rings in 10 years, I think would cement him for me as the GOAT. And if there's a three-peat in that, then even better. I think that the issue with the GOAT debate is that, there was a head-to-head at the beginning of Mahomes' career and kind of the end of Brady's career, and people are going to hang their hats on that. And then the fact that Brady's been in for was in for 22 years. I don't know if Mahomes is necessarily going to have that longevity because his play style is very different from Brady's. But Mahomes has shown over the course of his, kind of short career that he can switch up his play styles. He was throwing bombs 2018, his first year as a starter, and then now he's more conservative, dinking and dunking, cutting up defenses.
Yeah. No, I think that goes a little bit with losing Hill. Like you guys don't have that real vertical deep threat anymore. And I'd be curious if you got one back, if you would have to utilize Mahomes' arm strength again.
I would love to. I mean, he had like a 40, 50-yard bomb in I think it was a Super Bowl that I think we ended up turning it over the next play, but
y'all got stopped on like the 1 yard line or whatever it was. And then
No, those plays will happen. Go ahead.
And I was just going to say, I agree with you, though, on the 5 rings. I actually had this exact conversation yesterday with a Patriots fan, and we were just talking about how incredible Pat Mahomes is. And I was like, I think if he gets 5 rings, I think you can at least argue that he's the GOAT along with Brady, just for the simple fact that he has the better arm between the two of them. And that's not a knock on Brady. It's just Mahomes. I mean, there's a reason why he also could play baseball if he wanted to play baseball. He's got the arm talent to be in the MLB. And
Tom Brady got drafted into the MLB.
By who?
The Montreal Expos.
Oh, dude, by a team that doesn't even exist anymore, bro. Fuck out of here.
He got drafted in like 2000.
Dumpster fire organization.
You said Mahomes could play baseball. Brady did play baseball.
I don't think that Brady could not play baseball.
He did.
I mean, I'm not saying that he didn't, like in high school or whatever, but I'm just saying, no. We're arm for arm. Mahomes has the better arm, is what I'm trying to get.
I'm not disagreeing. I'm just saying Tom Brady did get drafted into the MLB.
That is I know that. That's crazy. But the obvious. Not obvious, but the better arm talent between the two of them is Pat, and I think that if Pat's able to win 6, I think it's no longer debate if Pat wins 6. I just think that there were enough Super Bowls where the defense carried Tom Brady, that you can probably put an asterisk next to like 2 to 3 of them, whereas. Even with this past Super Bowl, yes, the defense is the reason why they stayed in the game, but the fact that he had no help basically on offense and it was just him, and an old Travis Kelce, I think that's pretty impressive that you're still able to, beat that loaded San Fran team.
Yeah. And that's what I love about Pat is he can put the team on his back. Remember last year when he was on his, bum ankle and he's just running up and down the field anyway. It's you love to see it.
So how do you feel about Kansas City's free agency moves? Is there anything that really sticks out to you? Anything you wish you would have done better?
What I've learned from being a Chiefs fan is you just got to let them cook. Because, what may not seem obvious to you in the moment might work out really well. Like trading away Tyreek to bolster our defense seemed like a really bad idea at the time. Well, but we got rid of a few people. Snead, he was integral in our run for the championship. But I think that I'm just going to let them cook.
I think Marquise Brown will be good for y'all. I think that'll be I don't think he'll be y'all's wide receiver one, but I think it'll be nice to have a competent wide receiver out there.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Not Kadarius Toney.
Yeah.
No, yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
Do you think Hollywood Brown could take the number one spot in the wide receiver group?
I do. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of slim pickings at the moment. There's a, kind of a question mark with one of our receivers as it stands right now. So he might not have a choice but to be our number one.
Yeah. Maybe y'all will draft one.
Yeah, you probably have to. What else are you going to draft, really?
Yeah.
But what do you think about the whole Rice situation?
I think that dude already came out and admitted it. I'm not going to sit here and try to be an apologist for him. We had a similar kind of league. Well, I guess not similar, but, we had Kareem Hunt for a while, and he had that whole situation that was caught on camera. And so we kind of got rid of him pretty immediately after that. So I don't know if it's going to be a league suspension or a team suspension, but if he has to go, it's going to be a bummer for production wise, but dude's got to pay his dues and face consequences.
I really liked him. I wanted him in fantasy football this year.
He was nice.
Feasting. He was feasting.
Going back to the free agency stuff real quick, y'all also did pick up Irv Smith Jr. from the Bengals. How do you see him and Kelsey in like a two tight end set? How do you think that's going to work? And, what are you hoping to see from those two together?
What I hope is that Travis Kelce will continue to be the kind of magnet for the DBs, and people will gravitate towards him to try to double him, and that'll open up lanes for Irv Smith or Marquise Brown or, maybe even Pacheco to catch a little, 5-yard.
Who's your other tight end?
It was Noah Gray.
85 or whatever.
Traded him to the Dolphins, I believe.
Oh, I missed that. I was like, I knew you had another tight end.
Or maybe he got free agent to the Dolphins, but
I don't remember.
Ooh, actually looking at y'all's free agency sightings, bro, y'all got Carson Wentz. You're set for next year, man.
Oh, yeah.
Football god Carson Wentz is on your team, brother.
He wants.
He just wants another ring.
Hey, I don't blame him. Dude, honestly, being a backup quarterback is the best position in the NFL. I would volunteer for that any day of the week. You make a couple mil, you throw a couple passes from time to time whenever a guy's shoulder sore, some shit like that. Nobody expects you to win games, but if you do, everyone's
take
really
a knee
happy.
Once or twice.
Yeah,
I mean, people might expect Carson Wentz to win. Dude's got a name, he has a name.
With that team, he should win. If you can't win on the Chiefs, something's wrong with you. But Jordan brought up Snead. How do you think the secondary will hold up without Snead back there now?
I think one thing about the Chiefs that I really love is that we know how to build depth. Maybe not at wide receiver, but at least defensively, we build our depth pretty well. So I think it'll probably be a little adjustment period, but I'm sure we'll draft that. And I'm sure, the veterans that we do still have around will help bolster those, younger guys.
That's true.
Fair enough.
You guys could draft the only white safety in the last 20 years coming out of Iowa.
We'll get you famous too. We'll make it famous.
Hey, Team White is making a comeback now.
Team White, baby.
Oh my God. So kind of addressing some of the holes that y'all have mainly as far as your wide receiver positions and running back, what are you hoping to get out of this upcoming draft?
Yeah. Well, now that I guess the kind of good thing about the Rashee Rice thing is that this happened before the draft, and so we can have this in the back of our minds, okay, we should find someone kind of explosive, some that we can mold into, if not a 1, a 2. And, those Marquise Brown and this, mystery free agent can work with each other. And then, just continuing to fill in the gaps, of our secondary, making sure that we have a proper replacement for Snead. And I don't know. I think that's what I'm most concerned about is I just want to make sure that even if we don't add a bunch of super high power talent, at least if we can maintain where we've been, that's where I'm happy.
I have been seeing in mock drafts that y'all are looking at getting Washington out of USC or whatever. I mean, dude, he is an animal, and I think especially if you have a more of a speedster in Hollywood Brown on one side, I think having a bigger, more of I hate to say a lob threat because this isn't basketball, but basically a lob threat.
Jump ball. A 50-50 ball.
A real 50-50 type of wide receiver. I think that would be really beneficial for y'all and for Pat.
Yeah, I think Travis. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I'm gonna say I just want I want Travis Kelce to have a little bit more longevity. So I want them to get some people to get some of the eyes off of him. I want another threat.
Well, and I think that's the great thing about having Irv Smith too is, even though it's a 1-year deal, it is kind of like a prove-it deal, and it should lighten the load a little bit for Kelce this upcoming year because he's also, he's a really good tight end, and I think that if you give him the opportunity to develop under Travis Kelce too, I think that I wouldn't be surprised if this is his best year.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
I don't know how much you know about Tyler Boyd. He is still a free agent. What would your thoughts be if the Chiefs signed him? He has the lowest drop rate in all the NFL. You throw him in the slot behind Hollywood Brown. He'd be serviceable maybe for a year.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm sure that I've had him drafted in some of my fantasies, and I think that he can contribute, but I don't know if the juice is worth the squeeze necessarily. For someone who's like, I think
that is a Southern phrase right there, brother. Yeehaw. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just like, I haven't heard that in a long time. Damn.
Yeah. I respect Tyler Boyd as a player, but I don't think that we necessarily should spend too much resources going after him.
That's not even on our list of questions. It was just one I came up with right now.
Sure. Yeah.
But so talked about the draft. So with the draft free agency, Jordan, I'm stealing your question. What does success look like this next upcoming season?
3 teams.
There's only one more.
Super Bowl or bust.
First overall pick.
As long as we can beat up on the Bengals. I don't know where maybe it started with Burrowhead. Maybe it started with Burrowhead. And you know what? Joe Burrow is a monster. Like that dude he seems like he's kind of like our kryptonite, but at the same time, dude can't stay on the field. So I don't know.
Just be careful. You are talking to
when healthy, he is amazing.
Hey, I am from talk as much shit as you want. I approve. Okay.
So, 3-1? No. I got regular season playoff wins. You have rings.
It's like that meme that Tanner sent in our group chat earlier, where it's the guy pointing at the mirror. It's like,
why is everything
you go in there and make it about you, and it's about Bengals fans. Always. So 3 or bust basically is what you're saying.
Yep.
I feel like we'd all be in that same boat if we went back to back.
So going back to the issues that the Chiefs have been having with funding Arrowhead and all of that stuff, if Clark Hunt decides to be the coward that he is, would you support the team if they were to relocate out of Kansas City? I know that we talked about I would support them if they came to Dallas, but would you support them still?
Yeah, I mean, who would I have left at that point? You know what I mean? We would have no sports teams in Kansas City at that point.
And it's not like there's even a St. Louis team for you to cheer for anymore either. So best hope is that they go from the Kansas City Chiefs to the Kansas Chiefs, and that'll be best scenario. You know what's crazy? So this is completely not football related, but I saw something the other day, and I didn't even know if it was true until I looked it up. But the fact that you can buy weed on the Kansas City, Missouri side, but then you can't buy weed on the Kansas City, Kansas side, I think that shit's hilarious, man.
Yeah,
that is fun.
So I guarantee your players will still live on the Kansas City, Missouri side, and they'll just drive to the Kansas City, Kansas side to go play.
Yeah, it's just a win either way.
Yeah.
I just think that shit's so funny.
The whole thing is so funny. It makes no sense.
Yeah, especially because
I just remember.
Go ahead, Dave.
I just remember in 2015 when it was the Seattle versus Denver Super Bowl, and everyone was calling it was the Super Bowl because it was the only two states that allowed legalized marijuana.
Oh, yeah. They were calling it the Super Bowl. I forgot about that. Yeah. No, I just think that it's ridiculous that, I mean, I wouldn't be quite as annoyed with it if it were the Kansas City, Kansas side were like, well, we'll decriminalize it for the city. Because obviously, because you know what's going on, bro. Like, you know that people on the Kansas City, Kansas side are driving 15 minutes the other direction to go get it. Like, come on, man.
They're still getting all the tax money from it.
Yeah, the fact that you could still get ticketed and arrested, that's wild to me more than anything. You know,
they're double dipping.
No, I'm sure that they don't. I bet that there are probably cops that wait on that state line in the city, just waiting for people to go the other way, where they're like, we saw you at the dispensary over on that side.
Literally just down the road.
Man, well, we definitely got way off track with that one. So we always end with the same question for everybody. If you could just drag and drop a player from any era with the Chiefs onto this current roster, who would it be and why?
You know, I think we talked about this earlier, but I want to see Jamal Charles. We got Pacheco, but I want a dog in our running back slot. You know, like I want him to just.
I'd stop watching football if that happened.
Oh, yeah, it'd be unfair. It wouldn't even be right anymore. Y'all would 5-Pete. It would be disgusting.
Yeah.
I mean, have you seen the Texans though? They look like they might 5-Pete.
Woo, yeah, we were talking about that on the last pod. Yeah, they look frightening.
Oh, well, did you see what they did with Diggs' contract?
No, what they do?
They wiped Diggs' contract out. He's a free agent next year.
Oh, they
cut his last 3 years of his 4-year contract, brought the bonus from next year into this year, and basically it's a 1-year deal. But if he does leave in free agency, they get a comp pick.
Stephon Diggs to Dallas is what I'm hearing. Yes, in 2025.
But then Dak will be gone, so he'll have no one to throw to. So
honestly,
Dak is our backup now.
I hope that brother goes somewhere where they appreciate him and they actually like try to help him and not hurt him all the time. And I hope he wins a Super Bowl without a star on his helmet, just as a big middle finger to the organization, you know. So
cheers to that.
Well, cool. Before we end the segment, anything you want to plug? Any social media stuff you want to plug? Any projects? This is your opportunity to let the people know one last time who you are, Tony.
You know, I'm just happy to be here. No plugs for me. I appreciate you guys for having me on.
You don't even want them to follow you on Twitter or X, whatever the fuck they call it these days.
Yeah, I don't know what it's called.
What's your @ name?
I don't actually remember.
Isn't it the same as your email? I thought it was Mr. Crimson 45.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's not. It's not even close.
It's at Porterhouse.
Porter Hoss. So if anybody wants to follow Tony, it's P the number 0 ORTERHAUS. Porter Hoss.
Porterhouse. It's like a German brewery.
That's kind of cool. Well, thanks everyone for listening. This has been Tony Porter, our Chiefs correspondent, and you've been listening to FanBase Fiasco. We will send it to commercial break, or we might just end the show. We haven't really figured out how many interviews we have this week, so might have to edit that part, but it's fine. Y'all take care.
I'm gonna keep doing them both because they make me feel good.
All right, we did it. There we go.